Welcome, Naomi. Thank you so much for coming on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books to discuss A Coat of Yellow Paint.
Yes, thank you for having me.
This is such a delight. I felt like your book, it could have been us just like sitting at coffee and I was like, well, now I have to tell you like all my stuff.
Yes, please do. I
No, I'm
love hearing
kidding.
that. I
I'm
love hearing
kidding.
that. I wanted it to feel that way because I just really love the chance to connect that way where it doesn't feel I don't I love hearing that it felt great to approachable, I guess is what I'm getting at. So
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome. So you started blogging like before blogging was even a thing. It was like 2007 and you got going and in the book you said it was a way to connect with people back home when you went to Juilliard and
Yeah.
it like hasn't stopped since. So tell me about sort of the evolution of blogging and how you've built this really amazing following and how it has culminated in this book.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about, right? Because in 2007, there wasn't even social media or brand partnerships, or just this whole birth has happened since then of really an entire industry. So I feel really lucky with my timing. I feel lucky that I started when I did because I think that the root of why I shared how I shared back then has been able to really keep me grounded in that sort of sense even to this day as this world has just like so evolved since. But I feel so fortunate. It was just a happy accident in 2007 that I think it was like word of mouth back in that day that you would find blogs
Yeah.
and so yeah, 5 kids later, still going strong and I really do enjoy being able to share and connect with people all over the world. It's bananas to think about how we can use a platform like that and feel like I have like BFFs that I've never actually met in person, across the ocean. So, yeah.
The other day, I was meeting up with, now that we can finally sort of meet up with some people, I had a friend come over and my kids were like, well, how do you know her? I'm like, she's my friend. She's my friend from the internet. And they're like, what? You're not supposed to like meet random people on the internet. I'm like, but these are all the people.
I know, it's like, I'm going to have to talk to you about all the safety things because I don't know how this necessarily is going to come off when I say this, but I've met some of my closest and dearest friends. And in the book, I actually talk about how our first visitor to the hospital when my little one Eleanor was born, we literally met because of a comment she left on my blog a million years ago, and a friendship just really blossomed. And she threw my baby shower, and I threw her baby shower, and she lives all the way in England right now. But it's just amazing how we can feel intertwined and connected, despite. So it can be a really beautiful thing sometimes.
I feel like that about books, like books I read 20 years ago that I read and I was like, oh my gosh, like this person would be my best friend. Some
Yeah.
of them are now really close friends of mine
Oh, I
now
love
that I've met
that.
them because it's true. Anyway,
Yes.
it's just funny how you end up connecting. Anyway, so this coat of yellow paint, which you named after the piano that you maniacally painted in the middle of the night or something like that. This beautiful color yellow. And by the way, I love that you paint all sorts of walls, different colors. I'm like
Thank
huge
you.
into color myself.
Well, I'm dying over behind you, your beautiful rainbow wall of books. It's
Oh,
just,
thank
oh,
you.
that's
Yes, I did
just
that
gorgeous. I
myself.
love it.
No, downstairs our living room is like hot pink and I'm like all into color, so I just love it. And I love how someone said to you about your Instagram that like the colors of your home made her eyes hurt or something, and you were like, but that's my life.
Well, it's so funny because sometimes we get these comments, and I talked a lot in my book about the internet because I do think it's really hard for us sometimes to understand how to separate something that someone's going to say to you. It's like, you don't even know that person. And if you met them in the street and they came up to you and like said the critique that they're saying, are you going to completely change your life and base all your future decisions off of some random thing? No, you're not. But sometimes we feel this sense of like, well, they have authority because they just said this to me through their keyboard in some place that I don't even know. And so it's funny. And I think, it takes me a lot of time sometimes still too, but you have to look at it and be like, but you don't live here. If my walls make your eyes hurt, I think that's okay. Like, you don't have to deal with it. I do. And this makes me happy. So, I think we're both good. But it's good to always kind of have that check in and be like, why am I taking this so seriously? Or why am I giving so much weight to some funny opinion that like someone, like Glass Jar 77 said? I don't even know this person. So
I feel like that is one of the big themes in this book is sort of taking all this input and putting it in the place where it deserves to be, not front and center in your mind, which is
Yeah.
so tempting. And it even started with when you decided to have kids and so
Yeah.
young, right? You got married before you graduated from college and
Yeah.
still, I mean, I can't speak to how happy you are, but it sounds from the book that it sounds like you guys are still happy. Um, and that you tried for 2 years to get pregnant and people were dismissing your concerns because you were young, like, oh, well,
Right.
what are you doing having kids so young? So tell
Right.
me about having like people sort of on your shoulder your whole life and how you've learned to put them where they belong.
Yeah, it's definitely a big theme in the book because I think it's taken me a lot of time and experience to finally find my footing or my confidence in the fact that I have done a couple things a more untraditional or unconventional way. So, I was at Juilliard and I got married 2 days after my 21st birthday. I still had a year left of school, and that was so misunderstood and confusing to my director, family, a lot of people. And then choosing to start trying for a family straight away, that especially felt difficult. It felt really isolating just because I was in such a different phase of life now from so many of my closest girlfriends, so many people around me. And when it's so dismissed, something that you really want and you believe is valid, but it's not valid because of your age. Like, it's like, okay, so when can I want this thing too in life? Like, when am I allowed to vocalize that without having X, Y, and Z, all of these people, close people, anyone just be like, oh, that's just so silly. It'll happen when it happens. Or you're so young, you have so much time. Why would you even want that right now? I really learned to just compartmentalize it in a way and say like, okay, well, like back then I just did not have the tools to understand that like the feedback, the constant feedback that we get despite whatever it is we're going through, it's a lot when you don't know how to handle it, when you don't know how to take it and say, but this is what I want. And it's a worthy cause, or I think that it's good, or I shouldn't have to defend or explain myself. And I just didn't know how to do that. And it was really, really hard. And I swore back then and even up to a couple of years ago, I was like, I don't think I could ever talk about this publicly because it hasn't been understood even by like my closest circle. But I think over the years, as I've gained some tools, I've realized like, no. You can absolutely carve the path that you want in this life. And nobody else gets a say when, if you're hurting, your hurt is valid, or if you're confused or you want something. I think it's so beautiful how unique each of our paths are. And I think sometimes maybe it's scary for somebody when they realize that you're going to do something very different from how they think it maybe should look or how it looked for them. So I was really hopeful that by sharing, even though it's hard for me sometimes, like as the book released, it just rebubbled up a lot of those same emotions from back then where I'm like, oh shoot, is this going to be a phase 2 of me feeling everything again? But I really do. And it's amazing how I've had so many comments or emails from people who have had very similar experiences, even trying to get pregnant young or something completely a 180, but they're like, oh wow, I feel really seen right now, thank you. And so I think that I'm hopeful that it can help somebody feel less alone because we shouldn't have to feel that way, despite the way that we do things, however different they might be from the next.
So funny. I did an event last night with Melissa Bernstein, who wrote this book called Lifelines. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've heard of it. Anyway, she said the same thing that once she put it out into the world, she was like, oh no, like, I guess hers was more about existential depression and how she dealt with that and whatever, and how she's gotten a handle on it. And then
Yeah.
with like the 10,000 emails she got, she was like, oh my God. And she's like, I felt myself getting into the old patterns, but now it was because of the book. And the book was
Yeah.
supposed to be talking about how I'd gotten over the old patterns. So
I
I
know,
feel
I
like
know. It's this funny, and
very
I felt
aware.
that too. And I wanted, it was important that my tone. I was like, I don't want this to come across as like I figured this out, and these are the steps, and this is how you do it. Because I still struggle a lot sometimes with all of this noise around me. Of just we're in this day and age where we're raising our little ones, and there's people can weigh in from literally anywhere in a way. And regardless of that, we're just so connected, which is such a great thing, but it also can be kind of detrimental if we allow it to just, like, are you putting your phone at your bedside table before bed? Are you checking it the first thing in the morning? Like, are you allowing that feedback to just always surround you? And as I've learned to, place it aside and really live my life, I think sometimes I can still see myself going back to being like, oh wait, why am I caring so much, or why am I allowing these little tiny things to take such hold? So yeah, it's amazing how our brains work, and we revert right back to those things.
I shouldn't even admit this, but this morning, so I wrote this article recently about how I'm a little older than my husband, and I've started aging. Like, I'm 44, and he's like still in his 30s, and he has not really started aging at all, and I sort of have. And I wrote this piece about it, and somebody commented like, it's time for women to stop this ageist society and da 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 da. And I found myself this morning, when I was like in the midst of like boxes of Life cereal and like getting the kids ready, like being like, wait, I just have to finish this, as I emailed her back, like on the comments, like, no, here's what I was trying to do. Like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
I'm putting my own family life on hold and like jeopardizing on-time departures.
Right.
To talk to a complete stranger from, I don't even know where she lives and what her
Right.
on and her anyway. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, tell me about writing this book. Tell me about, I know a lot of it were sort of essay-ish type pieces. Even the beautiful one you wrote about life in 2020 and scrapping the plans to learn Italian or Spanish, I think.
Yeah.
And instead learning the vocabulary of pandemia or whatever.
Yes. Yep.
Tell me about how this became a book and the writing process behind it.
I feel I've always loved writing, and I feel so fortunate with the blog. It's just been so fun to kind of do like do, and I've just, it's been very, very casual, the format and just the way I've done it, and I approached it. And I was pregnant with my last two in 2018. I was halfway through my pregnancy, and I sat down to write a blog post one morning. I think it was 20 weeks, but I mean, pregnancy is just, it can be a lot. And my twin pregnancy really, really took everything out of me. I remember sitting there and I was just like, my back was cramping, and I was in like this throbbing pain and trying to just hone in on what I wanted to write. And I realized there were just so many hours that passed. And as I looked at what I'd written and I was reading it back, I was kind of surprised myself, because they were more intimate and vulnerable essays or stories that turned into these essays that I didn't think I ever was actually going to open up about publicly. I held them really close to my heart. I wasn't, I wasn't ready for the world to weigh in. I talked about my crisis with faith that day when I was writing. I talked about finding out that we were having both baby A and baby B that chapter, and then beginning to open up about my fertility experience. And I was like, I was truly, I was so surprised. I was like, wait, what is happening right now? And I realized as I felt this pull, I really wanted to get it up. I wanted to share. I wanted to post it. I realized I wanted to give it its proper format so that I could really put it underneath this bigger umbrella of this messaging that I was trying to get across in what turned out to be, like dozens of pages. That my blog posts have always been short and sweet. And I was like, I got to figure out how to do that. And I realized this was the start of my book. And I feel really fortunate I was able to find incredible literary agents and an imprint that really caught the vision and understood what it was I wanted to do and supported me with that, instead of trying to. I think sometimes it can be really easy to be put into like a little bit of a box of like, oh, let's do it this way. And especially being a blogger and having shared publicly the way that I have, I didn't want it to be anything regurgitated. I didn't want to do like a blog to book type thing. I really wanted to do it this specific way. So I feel so fortunate I've had that support to be able to do that. It was a very challenging process too, though, because writing is so different from writing a book versus, writing a blog post or an Instagram caption or something like that. So I learned an incredible amount during this process. And it just gets me excited, because I hope to be able to, use some of these new tools and gain more down the road, just because I loved it, despite the fact that it was very challenging, especially in 2020, trying to write with, all of these circumstances that were put on all of us. But I'm grateful it's done. There were many moments during that the last couple months where I was like, I don't think this can happen. I don't know how I can find time to write without a child coming and stepping on my keyboard. So
So what are some of the tricks and tools you made from changing from a blog post Instagram caption mentality to more of a book length with like an arc that has
an
to,
arc. I know I had to go back and be like, oh, an arc. Oh, really? Oh, interesting. I don't write like that. No, I really, truly had to sit down in the beginning. And, it's just, it took, it took a minute in the beginning to sit down and realize what I want, how I wanted to say it, and not just to come flat out and say this, but to kind of paint more of a story with it, which I actually really love, to try to weave in a few of these experiences in a more storytelling format. But I think, I feel really lucky that I was able to do it I had a great editor over at HarperCollins that was able to kind of sit down in the beginning and say, well, there's a lot of run-ons here. But she also was really sweet to say, I understand you're very conversationalist in the way that you write. And so we can keep that. And I didn't want to have to bring in a co-editor or a ghostwriter or anything like that. I was like, I know I have a lot of run-ons when I write, when I talk, but I want this to be this way. If we can polish it a little bit, but I really wanted it to keep that, and everyone was very gracious and let me do that. So
amazing. So now that you've done that, do you have plans for another book? Or are you going to like wait till more things percolate, or what's the?
I have another book actually, but we haven't visited much of that yet. It's been, as we've been launching this one, everything's kind of just sit in the back of my head, kind of. I haven't been able to think. And I know that we had a conversation a few weeks ago, actually. Someone was like, we should probably visit that. And I was like, I don't think I can visit that for maybe another month. Let's put the brakes on that for a minute. But I am excited to maybe do something too a little bit different than this one. I loved doing essays, but I think it'd be fun to try to challenge myself with something else. So we'll see. But down the road, hopefully, yes.
Wow. Well, I just loved, as sort of a fellow New Yorker, and really appreciating what it must have been like, even the 5-floor walk up. My sister-in-law used to live in a 5-floor walk up, and even just like visiting her, I was like, ugh.
I know, right?
So I have the energy, and I'm thinking about you with kids doing that, and the groceries, and like, wasting away time so you didn't have to like tackle the stairs by like.
I know. It's so funny though. I look back at that chapter. I think we were there for about five years. And it really is one of my fondest. Like, I have such beautiful, vivid, happy memories in that 5th floor walk up, counting those 67 stairs up and down, pregnant with 2 little ones, then with 3. I mean, it really was, and I really was hopeful that, whatever that sort of challenge looks like for you in your life, because obviously not everybody has to hike 67 stairs multiple times a day. I really think that when you reframe a challenge like that in your life as an adventure, or just being able to look at it and build it as a positive habit. Like, my kids, and I think that's what helped me with my mentality, is my kids never saw as like, oh, we got to hike the stairs. Like, they truly just grew up with the stairs and loved the stairs and the games we played on the stairs, or whatever it was, that I just felt like we had built it into our daily routine as such a norm, and I think that we all have that ability, but it's just how we look at it. So it's amazing, because it really was like this tiny shoebox apartment that was our favorite, despite the fact that it felt like we were doing some sort of gym circuit to get there every day.
Oh my gosh. And I love how you also reframed your body, essentially, and how your daughter, I think, was telling you that your tummy was doughy and soft and warm and everything. And
from such a loving place, right? She was
no.
like, oh, I love your warm, soft, doughy tummy, mama, right? But we as women, we're like, wait, like, let me suck in. Let me, like, hold on. Don't touch me. Like, I don't know. We put a lot on ourselves. I think society doesn't help sometimes, but I realize as I become a mother, especially, that's a conversation I want to make sure I don't leave on the table, but that, I want them to be able to celebrate what gifts our bodies are from a young age. And especially as I know that they probably will grow up and have, complex, relationships here or there as they navigate their own bodies and things like that. But I was like, I don't want to put all of my own insecurities, having grown up as a dancer, or maybe in a household where it just wasn't necessarily a positive thing. I don't want to put that on them. And I think we forget that we easily can, even not meaning to, right? It's just with like a one-off comment, or not wanting to get into the picture, or jump into the pool with the swimsuit because we just don't feel ready or whatever it is. And so, yeah, that was also one that I was a little nervous. I was just like, I don't know. I know that I need to do this. It's important to me to share because I really feel grateful to have made that progress in my own journey, which didn't really happen until I became a mother, which I think is really interesting. So
I am so glad you shared that. I've had twins. I've had 4 kids. Like my tummy. Anyway.
yeah.
But sometimes I think I've gone too far. Sorry, I'm choking. But like I keep telling my kids whenever they like look at my stomach or something, like, no, I'm so proud of my stomach because that's how I got all of you. Without that, I used to have a flattish stomach and that was fine, but I would much rather have you. And my daughter, we had a play date the other day and she was like, do you want to see my mom's stomach?
Because I love it. She loves you.
No. Like, it's okay. Don't pull up my shirt. I mean, I'm all for it,
That's
but like,
so sweet.
Anyway.
But that is complete. That's it right there. Like she looks at you and you are her safety. You are her comfort. She loves looking at her mom and she loves your tummy. And that, like, I think that's just, if we could all look at ourselves the way that our children see us, I think we would all feel a lot more confident in what beautiful beings we are, So, that's beautiful. I love that.
And your other message in the book that was also so relevant and so great is this whole thing of just being a mom, right? I had many years when I wasn't working out of the house and, I'd go to like a dinner party or something and I feel like, well, I'm just at home, I'm just at home with my twins or whatever. And I don't know, I felt so much that especially the men were just like, oh, okay. And then they like didn't know what to talk to me about.
Yeah.
Luckily I really like to ask questions. So I'm like, okay, back to you. But I always felt so bad about myself, right? Like, I have nothing to add to this conversation now. Or like, despite the fact that I was working so hard all day.
Yes, 24/7.
He was right sitting at his desk, reading sports online, pretending to do banking or whatever he was doing. Anyway,
I love that you say that because I do really think like we are so lucky in this day and age as women, right? Like we can really carve our own paths and find our identities outside of the home as well. But that was so important to me because as I heard it more and more with people introducing themselves and saying that, I don't believe we should put it so far down the list of like important titles that you have to say like, I'm just a mom, or like, oh, I'm just at home, or I'm like, wait a second, no. So I think I think it's such, I love, one of the women who endorsed my book, actually, Elaine Dalton, she's also an author and she actually put in her kind of her title of introducing herself, mother, author, speaker, whatever. And I was like, that's beautiful that you place that before any of your other titles. And especially as with my messaging and everything else, I just was like, I love that, to introduce yourself and put that importance there, along with everything else that you're carrying, but to make sure that has space and proper space. Because it is, like we forget, it is such valuable work and full-time work around the clock that I don't know what's more important. So, yeah.
Yeah, amen to that. So last question, what advice would you have for aspiring authors?
Oh, so much, but I think my biggest thing, I'm very much a perfectionist. And a lot of times I felt really pulled with some of these essays. I was like, I know that I need to do this, but sometimes I can find a lot of excuses because I want it to be right. And I think it applies to like a lot of other things I've done in my life too, where sometimes you're like, oh, I really want to do that thing, but like I need to make sure I have the proper time to give it, or I need to make sure that like, everything's in its place so that I can do that and share that the way I want it to happen. But life is bonkers, and it's just, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where you're going to be in 5 years sometime, right? Like I just think sometimes it's important to give yourself that grace and just do it. And I think we are so good, at least myself, speaking from my own experience of coming up with a lot of excuses or saying like, maybe I just put this on pause. Maybe I hold it or whatever it is. But if you want to do it, you can do it. You can find the 10 minutes or 20-minute pockets here or there to start at it and work at it. And I know that I do believe there's a season for everything, but you just go, just do it. And don't let the little circus in your head hold you back. So
Love it. Don't
yeah.
let the little circus in your head hold you back. That's a good one. All right. Well, Naomi, thank you. It was so nice to meet you.
It was great to meet you too.
And
I'm gonna go change my bookcase in the other room. I don't know if I have enough. You have lots of yellow books, and I love that.
I do.
So I'm gonna have to
over here.
add to my collection.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.